Okay, this is the modified contour, and I'm going to look at the 80-20 rule, which means 80% of the time I'm looking at my hand and 20% of the time I'm looking at my paper. So I'm going to start out by choosing some sort of a profile position where I'm looking at my hand directly from the side, like that. And I'm going to tip it just a little bit because I'm at a different angle than the camera is. And you want to think about, choosing a position. You can hide some of your fingers, so you only have to end up drawing 3. Or you could show all your fingers, whatever you want. And I'm only going to draw while I'm looking at my hand. And I'm going to keep my fingers a little bit bent. I think it makes it a little bit easier to draw when you have some angles to go off of. So when you draw, pick a spot to start, and I'm only going to move my pencil as my eyes move down my hand. But I can stop and I can look at my paper to kind of gain my bearings to see where I need to go next, and if I need to pick up my pencil. So it's this constant back and forth, back and forth. And it's easiest if you work quietly so that you can concentrate. When you're drawing fingers, you can think that, each of your fingers are divided up into these little segments. So you can also think about drawing one segment at a time. So again, I'm just looking at my paper every now and then to get my bearings for where I need to pick up my pencil and where I need to put it next. This part is usually like a straight line, and then there's a couple other lines that might kind of overlap in there. What you want to look for is where it ends in relation to some other part that you've drawn. So I can see that this line kind of ends going in this direction right below where that knuckle line is. And there's this other line that comes in here that starts kind of right where this one is. So not too far, and it comes out at slightly a different angle and just a little bit farther. And then right beneath, in the middle of this, I have this point here. So that's what I mean why it's helpful that you can look at your paper in those instances to kind of get an idea of where your next line should be. My next one is going to kind of come right underneath this one from before. And these kind of observations are really helpful because it might not make sense. It might not make sense that this little section is looking smaller than this section here, but it's just because of the angle that my thumb is at. So those are the kinds of things that you need to really be thinking about when you're drawing and paying attention to. Thumbs, I think, are hard, mostly because you're drawing these fingers at a profile and then your thumb is a little bit tipped. So sometimes they end up looking a little bit funny. And again, this is just an exercise here. I'm still only looking at the shape of the line and kind of just trying to mimic that. And I'm looking to see where my other knuckle lines fall in relation to something else that I've already drawn. You also have to kind of keep in mind that the thumb kind of protrudes out towards you. And this part of your hand kind of ends up looking a little bit big in a contour drawing, just because this isn't defined by lines. This area is defined by shading. So once you started to shade, you would add some of the details in there that would be necessary to make that kind of come together a little bit more. So now I'm going to come up here and start drawing some of these lines. Again, I'm looking at the direction that the finger is going. I'm looking at how far out I need to draw, a certain part. Like this part is right above where this last little knuckle line is, kind of out here. This is going to help me kind of keep the correct proportions or something. And then I can see that this finger extends beyond where the other ones are. And again, I'm still doing the drawing while I'm looking at my hand. It's a constant back and forth motion where I'm stopping to kind of gain my bearings a little bit. I'm going to look and see, here's this knuckle bump here. So this line has to go past that, dips down a little bit, and then it goes up just beyond this knuckle line right here. And then you can see the other part of the hand coming back behind here. And then you can also see this tendon makes a little bit of a line right there, as does this one. But that's pretty much what the contour looks like. And you can add more details later on, the more and more advanced as you get, by adding some highlights and shadows, like I talked about in this area here. That's defined more by some shading, adding shadows and highlights to create some depth in that area. But if you keep practicing this technique, you'll get better and better at drawing hands and really anything, because this technique translates to drawing anything from life.